Let's be honest. Does the modern world ever feel like it's just draining you? Wearing away your wonder, your hope, your sheer joy? Like the relentless tide of news, demands, and uncertainty is leaving your spirit feeling parched, perhaps even a little cynical, definitely weary. If so, you might find the most unexpected source of renewal in a man who lived 100 years ago, the brilliant, booming, paradoxical G.K. Chesterton. Now, you might hear faith, especially traditional faith, and think of rules, restriction, maybe even something dull or old-fashioned that couldn't possibly renew anything in our complex, fast-paced lives. But Chesterton saw it differently, radically differently. He didn't just believe in faith, he discovered it, like an explorer finding a lost continent that made more sense than the world he left behind. He found not a cage, but the widest field for freedom, not a denial of reality, but the clearest lens to see it. And most surprisingly to many, he found explosive, rational, contagious joy rooted in ancient truths. In this video, we're going to delve into how Chesterton's unique, vibrant perspective on faith has the power to breathe life back into your spirit. We'll explore his insights on why the world feels weary, how he countered cynicism, and where he found the inexhaustible source of wonder and delight that defined his life and work. Before we dive into Chesterton's world, tell me this: what's the biggest drain on your spirit right now? What leaves you feeling most weary? Share your thoughts in the comments below. It helps to know we're not alone in feeling this. Because the answers, as Chesterton shows us, aren't always where we expect to find them. Get ready to see faith and maybe yourself in a way you never anticipated. This isn't your typical take on religion. This is Chesterton. To understand how Chesterton's faith can renew your spirit, we first need to understand what, in his view, wears down the human spirit. And he wouldn't hesitate to point to a fundamental loss, the loss of wonder. Think about a child. For a child, the world is a place of constant miracles. Every new discovery, every object, every living thing is a source of pure fascination. A puddle is an ocean. A cardboard box is a castle. A ladybug is a creature of indescribable beauty. The child lives in a state of intrinsic gratitude for the very existence of things. Chesterton argued that Orthodox faith is, at its core, a way of recovering this childlike perspective, but with the depth and solidity of maturity. He saw the modern problem as a kind of existential boredom, a blunting of the soul caused not by a lack of interesting things, but by an inability to see the interest in the things that already exist. In his seminal work, Orthodoxy, he writes extensively about how abandoning faith leads not to freedom, but to new and narrower mental cages. Without the framework and worldview provided by traditional faith, people become, in his view, fixated on fleeting novelties, trapped by intellectual fads, or worse, succumb to despair and nihilism. He observed that the free thinkers of his day who rejected religious dogma often ended up creating their own dogmas, frequently more rigid and less joyful than the ones they rejected. They might be cynical about marriage, narrowly patriotic, or obsessed with scientific or social theories that became their new, inflexible orthodoxies. And, crucially, they seemed to lose the capacity to simply celebrate the fact of being alive. The loss of wonder manifests in several ways in our spirit. Cynicism, the tendency to assume the worst, to doubt good intentions, to mock hope or virtue. Cynicism wears down the soul because it closes us off to the possibility of goodness, beauty, and truth. Chesterton saw cynicism as the cheapest form of skepticism. It's easy to be cynical, hard to be wisely hopeful. Boredom, the feeling that nothing is truly new or interesting, that everything is repetitive and meaningless. Boredom is poison to a creative and joyful spirit. Chesterton argued boredom comes not from a lack of things, but a lack of the capacity to marvel at things. Disconnection, feeling isolated, without a place in the grand scheme of things. The loss of a larger narrative, a transcendent purpose, can make life feel fragmented and lacking in lasting significance. Incessant restlessness, the feeling that we must always be moving, always seeking the next thing, the next experience, because the present is insufficient. This prevents us from savoring the moment and finding contentment in the here and now. Chesterton saw Orthodox faith as the perfect antidote to these ailments. It doesn't deny the reality of suffering or evil in the world, but it offers a framework that allows us to face these realities without succumbing to cynicism or despair. It reignites wonder by reminding us that existence itself is an unmerited gift, a continuous bounty. If you resonate with this feeling of lost wonder, the weight of cynicism, boredom, or disconnection, then Chesterton's perspective has something fundamental to offer your spirit's renewal. He invites us to relearn how to see the world not as a drab given, but as an astonishing, ongoing miracle. Now, let's dive deeper into Chesterton's faith itself. It wasn't a timid, apologetic faith. It was bold, paradoxical, and overflowing with intellectual vitality and joy. He famously came to defend Christian orthodoxy not because it was comfortable or conventional, but because he found it to be the most thrilling, rational, and life-affirming perspective available. In Orthodoxy, he describes his journey not as converting to Christianity, but rather as discovering that Christianity was the only philosophy that made sense of the world as he experienced it. He felt like an explorer who, after a long journey, discovers that he has landed on England, the very place he started, but now seen with fresh eyes and a profound appreciation for its foundations. What was so unique and renewing about Chesterton's brand of faith? Firstly, he saw orthodoxy as inherently adventurous. This is perhaps his most famous and counterintuitive argument. Most people see religious dogma as a cage, a set of rules that restricts thought and action. Chesterton saw it as the exact opposite. He compared it to the fence around a sheer cliff edge. The fence isn't there to restrict your movement on the safe path, it's there to allow you to run and dance freely without fear of falling into the abyss of nihilism or despair. Heresies, in his view, were not exciting acts of rebellion, but rather boring, narrow fixations on a single truth taken to an extreme. They were monotonous because they lacked the balance and breadth of orthodoxy, which held diverse, sometimes seemingly contradictory, truths in dynamic tension. Orthodoxy, for Chesterton, was the wide, complex, multi-roomed house of reality, full of surprises and discoveries, while heresy was just one bleak corridor or an empty field. This perspective renews the spirit by transforming the perception of faith from a rigid obligation into a grand exploration. Secondly, Chesterton embraced the power of paradox. He saw paradox not as a problem for faith, but as a key indicator of its truth and vitality. Reality itself, he argued, is full of paradoxes. How can something be both simple and complex? How can love be both utterly free and binding? How can justice require both mercy and judgment? Christian faith, with its central mysteries like the Trinity or the Incarnation, is rich in paradox. Chesterton delighted in these. He saw them as signs that the faith was large enough to encompass the fullness and mystery of existence, not shrinking away from complexity, but embracing it. He believed that truths often stood on two legs, needing a partner truth that might seem opposite to maintain balance. Humility and dignity, for example, were not opposing forces to be chosen between, but two essential aspects of the human condition upheld by faith. This perspective renews the spirit by freeing the mind from simplistic either-or thinking and opening it to the richness of both and. Thirdly, Chesterton had a profound sense of gratitude and wonder. He saw the world not as something owed to us, but as a gift given anew each morning. The fact that the sun rose, that grass was green, that we had hands to hold things. These were not mundane occurrences, but continuous miracles. He famously said, "We are to be as thankful for the pluck of the green grass as for the pluck of the green flag." This radical gratitude is a powerful antidote to boredom and cynicism. It transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. It reminds us that existence itself is astonishing and delightful. Faith, for Chesterton, provided the framework for this gratitude by pointing to a giver behind the gift. This sense of persistent, amazed gratitude is a direct path to spiritual renewal. It pulls us out of jadedness and into active, joyful appreciation. These elements, seeing orthodoxy as adventure, embracing paradox, and cultivating radical gratitude, are cornerstones of Chesterton's faith and offer a direct pathway to renewing a weary spirit by challenging our preconceived notions and inviting us into a larger, more vibrant view of reality. Let's get more specific about how these aspects of Chesterton's faith practically renew your spirit in the face of modern challenges. Reclaiming wonder in the ordinary. As we discussed, modern life often numbs us to the miraculous nature of existence. Chesterton's faith acts like spectacles that bring the world into sharp focus. He saw the dogmas of faith not as dull repetitions, but as constant reminders of extraordinary facts. The doctrine of creation, for example, isn't just a historical event, it's the ongoing miracle that anything exists at all. Every sunrise is a fresh act of creation. Every individual life is a unique, irreplaceable miracle. By consciously adopting this perspective, by practicing gratitude for the mundane, by looking for the inherent design and beauty in the simple, we counteract the erosion of wonder and reignite that childlike fascination that is vital for a lively spirit. He encourages us to treat every good thing as a surprise birthday present, not an entitlement. This simple shift in perspective can transform daily life from a grind into a treasure hunt. Finding freedom in commitment. In a world that often equates freedom with a lack of any ties or obligations, Chesterton's faith presents a powerful counter-narrative. He argued that true freedom isn't the ability to do anything, but the ability to commit to something. Choosing a path, a spouse, a belief system doesn't restrict you in a negative way. It defines you and gives your life direction and meaning. Just as a fence allows you to run freely within a field, commitment allows you to live deeply and fully within a chosen framework. The commitments of faith to certain truths, to a community, to a moral code provide the very boundaries within which genuine spiritual growth and freedom flourish. This is renewing because it offers an alternative to the exhausting pursuit of endless, often shallow options, providing instead the deep satisfaction that comes from building something lasting. Embracing limitation as power. Modernity often views any limitation, be it physical, intellectual, or theological, as something negative to be overcome. Chesterton, with his love for paradox, saw limitation differently. He argued that limits are not just restrictions, they are also the source of form, identity, and energy. A poem is powerful because it's limited by meter and rhyme. A drawing gets its form from its lines. Love is intensified by its focus on one person. God, in Christian theology, limits himself in creation and incarnation, and this act of limitation is seen as an expression of ultimate power and love. Our own limitations, therefore, are not just weaknesses, but the specific contours that make us who we are. Accepting and even celebrating our finite nature, our specific circumstances, the particular time and place we inhabit, roots us in reality and frees us from the exhausting delusion of needing to be infinite or everywhere at once. This is deeply renewing. It allows us to find joy and purpose within our actual lives, rather than constantly yearning for an impossible state. He used the analogy of the street lamp. If you love a street lamp, you don't complain that it's not a celestial constellation. You love it as a street lamp. Combating cynicism with rational joy. Chesterton was a famously cheerful man, but his cheerfulness was not naive. He was acutely aware of suffering and evil in the world. His joy didn't ignore pain, it transcended it. He argued that joy is not just an emotion, it's a profound affirmation of existence, a kind of metaphysical cheerfulness based on the understanding that reality, at its core, is good because it was created by a good God. This rational basis for joy allows us to confront the darkness of the world without succumbing to cynicism. Cynicism is easy. It requires no faith, no courage. Joy, in Chesterton's view, is a more serious and profound response to reality, requiring effort and conviction. Cultivating Chestertonian joy involves choosing to see the good, to be grateful, and to affirm the fundamental goodness of creation despite the presence of evil. This active pursuit of joy is incredibly renewing. It empowers us to face adversity with resilience and hope rather than being flattened by it. He famously said, "The most incredible thing about Christianity is that it is credible." This credibility for him was a source of profound joy. Seeing the world as a drama. Chesterton's faith presented the world not as a meaningless accident or a deterministic machine, but as a great cosmic drama, a battle between good and evil, with humanity playing a crucial role. This view imbues life with immense meaning and significance. Every choice we make, every action we take, has weight within this larger narrative. We are not insignificant specks in a vast, indifferent universe. We are characters in the most important story ever told. This sense of cosmic drama elevates our daily struggles and triumphs, giving them eternal relevance. It provides a powerful antidote to feelings of pointlessness or alienation. Understanding that our lives are part of a grand, unfolding narrative with a beginning, a conflict, and a hopeful resolution is deeply renewing and motivating. It calls us to participate actively and purposefully in the world. By internalizing these Chestertonian perspectives, reclaiming wonder, finding freedom in commitment, embracing limitation, pursuing rational joy, and seeing life as a meaningful drama, we can actively combat the spiritual weariness and cynicism that modern life often breeds. His faith isn't just a set of beliefs, it's a way of seeing, a way of living that has the power to radically renew our spirit. In a world that often feels draining and devoid of deeper meaning, the faith of G.K. Chesterton stands as a vibrant, compelling alternative. He shows us that faith is not a retreat from reality, but the most robust way to engage with it. It's not about dull conformity, but about discovering the wild, exhilarating adventure of being alive within a purposeful, miraculous universe. His perspective on wonder, gratitude, paradox, and the inherent goodness of creation provides a powerful framework for spiritual renewal. It invites us to shed the heavy cloak of cynicism and boredom and step into the light of a reality that is, in his words, not reasonable, but is a miracle. Renewing your spirit isn't always about finding something completely new and foreign. Sometimes, as Chesterton discovered on his journey back to orthodoxy, it's about rediscovering fundamental truths and perspectives that have been overlooked or misunderstood, seeing the familiar with the intensity of a first encounter. The joy, the clarity, the deep gratitude that animated Chesterton's life and work are available to us. By adopting his perspective, by choosing wonder over weariness, paradox over platitude, and joyful affirmation over cynical resignation, we can begin to renew our own spirits, finding strength, meaning, and a profound sense of adventure in the midst of our modern lives. What aspect of Chesterton's thought resonates most with you? How do you combat spiritual fatigue in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation going. If this video has sparked something in you, please give it a like and consider subscribing for more content exploring faith, philosophy, and the great thinkers who can help us navigate the complexities of life. Thank you for watching. May your spirit be renewed with wonder and joy.